Thank you. It's great to be here. I guess I've been the CEO of Fannie Mae since 2012, but I've been at the company since 2009. So I've been part of a management team that we collectively have taken a lot of actions to try to improve Fannie Mae. First and foremost, I'd say we improved our underwriting standards. So we changed our credit box and we enhanced standards as to the loans that we would acquire. Second, we did a lot to improve servicing standards. So what happens when borrowers go delinquent and how we interact with them, creating lots of programs to help people stay in their homes and avoid foreclosure. Beyond that, we've taken some important steps to better price for the risk that we take. We have an enormous quantity of credit risk, so we changed some of our pricing in order to be able to cover that risk. But importantly, we also are distributing risk in a way that we never did before. Historically, Fannie Mae would take on credit risk of long-term fixed-rate mortgage assets and hold that for the life of the loan. Now we're distributing that credit risk to private capital through both capital markets transactions and reinsurance transactions. So I'd say we've done a whole lot of things, those things and more, but it's been a collective effort to try to turn the company around and produce better results, not just for our company, but also for the whole housing finance system. So this is a market that we really created in the last 2 or 3 years. This market didn't really exist. There wasn't a well-established market for the transfer of large-scale mortgage credit risk other than buying and selling whole loans. So primarily through capital markets transactions, we created structured transactions where we retain the first loss, a fairly modest amount. We then sell securities that would transfer what we would call the mezzanine or middle part of the credit stack, and then we retain the catastrophic risk. Our goal in doing this has been to create a deep and liquid market similar to our mortgage-backed securities market that's existed for many years. And so we've tried to standardize this market. We've tried to increase the number of investors in it, improve liquidity in it. And over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, that's really had remarkable success. So we've been quite pleased with it. And there's always challenges in any capital market structure when you hit disruptions. We haven't experienced those disruptions so far, so we'll have to see how all this performs in a downturn. But so far, it's been enormously successful. I would look at it from this perspective. I'm not the deepest mortgage expert at Fannie Mae. I wasn't in the mortgage business before I went to Fannie Mae. I'd been a lawyer by training. I'm a financial services lawyer, but not even a transactional lawyer. I did mostly litigation and regulatory enforcement work. And so, for me, it's not about being the best subject matter expert. It's about being a strong leader, a good manager, driving collaboration, setting aspirational goals for the organization, and help driving us towards them. So my goal as the leader of the company is to get the very most I can get out of everybody who's on the team, from the senior most executives to the day-to-day workers. And I think we've been tremendously successful in doing that. I've been very pleased with that. But that's not just me alone. I mean, people give CEOs lots of credit, but actually CEOs deserve a lot less credit. It's really about empowering the people who work with them and really giving them the latitude and the vision to go pursue and make those things happen. In terms of advice I'd give to students in terms of being successful in any organization, it's important to know something, right? It's important to have some technical knowledge or area of expertise, but one bit of advice I would give is that I think many people in college or graduate school focus almost too much on acquiring a vocational skill, something very specific that they could take to the marketplace and sell and make money at. And in my experience, I mean, look, I was an English major at Cornell. So I'm living proof that even poets, can make a living in financial services. And I think the things people really need to learn are, they need to have a broad range of interests. Life is about understanding different perspectives, so having that. Developing critical thinking skills, being able to analyze problems and see solutions in them. Being able to influence people, influence what people think and what they feel. And those are things that are actually much more important in terms of success than knowing more about any one particular thing than anybody else. At least that's been my experience. I think of my job as being largely a stakeholder management job. You know, I have lots of stakeholders in the success of Fannie Mae. So I have our customers, right, who are our lenders. There are borrowers who, if they don't interface directly with Fannie Mae, they have Fannie Mae mortgages. I have, I have my regulator. I have the Congress. I have the media. I have my executive leadership team. I have all my employees. I have my board of directors. So there are all these different constituencies out there that need to be tended to, and they all have differing desires and needs and objectives, and it's my job to try to meet as many of those desires and objectives as possible and try to guide all those people in the same directions. That's a difficult balance to maintain, but that's where all these other things about understanding a breadth of perspectives, having critical thinking skills, having influencing skills, strong communication skills, that's where that set of skills becomes really important. What's most important for my success is not knowing more about some part of the mortgage business or the mortgage origination process than anybody else. It's being able to effectively engage with all those different stakeholders. So I practiced law for many years, and I'm proud to be a lawyer. A lot of people, lawyers are easy to make fun of, and I know a lot of lawyers who are unhappy lawyers, but I actually really enjoyed practicing law. I think it's a really great profession and a great discipline, and it does promote those critical thinking skills. I think for most people in the real estate business, it's really hard to be a successful real estate professional without having a good command of the fundamentals of the legal principles that apply and a close attention to certainly contractual arrangements. These things are really critical. The success or failure of many real estate businesses depends on, did they anticipate the potential legal issues they might have and prepare for those in terms of forming the contracts that they enter into. So I don't think that one could be a successful real estate professional without really having a good grasp of the fundamentals of the legal issues. One of the things that we try to do at Fannie Mae, in addition, most people know us as the folks who finance single-family homes. So we finance about 1 in 3 single-family homes in America, either through financing the purchases of those homes or the refinancings of those homes. So that's what most people think about when they think Fannie Mae. They think about single-family home ownership. There's another big part of our business, which is our multifamily rental business, where we work with lenders to provide financing on multifamily apartment developments. We really focus there on workforce and affordable housing. So about 90% of all the projects that we finance are affordable at 120% of area median income. So to give you a sense of what that is, in Ithaca, for example, area median income is about $30,000. So we're talking about financing apartments that are affordable to regular people around the country. And we do this in all markets all over the country. So Stuy-Town, Peter Cooper Village, is an enormous 110-building complex in lower Manhattan. It was developed right after the Second World War and has been a substantial source of workforce housing in Manhattan. And so one of the things that we did in the last year or so was to refinance that project. It was acquired by an affiliate of Blackstone together with a Canadian pension fund they bought the asset out of a receivership or bankruptcy process and decided that they wanted to work with the city to restructure the financing of it that would allow a good portion of the units in the complex to remain affordable within the context of Manhattan rents. And so we work with Wells Fargo, which was the primary lender on it. They're one of our customers. We work with Blackstone, but Blackstone and Wells Fargo also worked with the city and the Office of Economic Development in the city to try to put together a tax abatement and that would help support this overall financing project. So we delivered $2.7 billion of funding to the project. Blackstone put another $2.7 billion of equity. We've ended up with an outcome that I think will preserve those units for decades to come, and it's really it's a terrific outcome. It's something that a place like New York City that has huge affordable housing needs, really required. I'd say, there are different asset classes, obviously, in commercial real estate. And, some of those asset classes are performing better than others, and I think are at different points in the cycle. I'd say with respect to the multifamily business, which is the only commercial real estate asset class that we really deal with, we still think the fundamentals are pretty strong. Certainly in supply-constrained markets like New York or San Francisco, fundamentals are extraordinarily good. Valuations are quite high. Vacancies are low. Rent increases are still occurring. In other secondary and tertiary markets, I think things are a little softer, and it obviously varies from market to market. But I think the overall fundamentals are pretty good. Household formation, which is a strong indicator of the strength of housing markets generally, is improving. We see good employment numbers, labor participation is picking up, but also household formation is increasing. And a lot of that household formation is coming from millennials. Millennials, like everything else, are a little bit slower than at forming households than previous generations, but they are doing that, and we expect that the rate of household formation will increase significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think the demographics of the multifamily business are actually still pretty good. With the economic recovery that we're in is 7 years in the making now. It's one of the, I think it's the third longest recovery since the end of the Second World War. So this is one of the longer expansion periods that we've had. Of course, we were starting from a very low place, and the rate of improvement was a little bit slower than you saw in some other recoveries from some recessions. So while the expansion has been a little bit slower in coming, hopefully it lasts longer than some of those previous recoveries, and we'll get sustained momentum around that. There's certainly a lot of confidence. I sense a lot of confidence from other CEOs about the economy as a whole. Certainly the financial services sector is feeling good about where the economy is at the moment. And among real estate professionals, I hear a lot of positive comments. I think people they have their antenna up though. They're trying to figure out, at some point we know that the market will turn and people want to be sensitive around that. I mean, I do think that, I remember in the 2000s, listening to people say with the dot-com boom and then bust, when it was still booming, people said maybe we've reached the end of economic cycles. I think what the last 10, 15 years have told us is that's definitely not true. We still haven't gotten beyond economic cycles, and so we know that that turn will come at some point, but for now I think it's going on pretty well. In terms of what the future of Fannie Mae is, it is clearly one of the great challenges that remains in the wake of the crisis. We've seen a lot of reform in other parts of the financial services sector. That hasn't happened with respect to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So, we have a new administration now in the Trump administration. They're certainly bringing a fresh set of eyes to lots of issues. We've had a pretty vigorous debate over the last 8 years about what should happen in housing finance. I think the good news is that that debate has actually made people much more thoughtful and deliberate about what they're doing, as opposed to some of the extreme things that were talked about immediately after the crisis hit. So I feel like we have some very smart people who spend a lot of time focusing on these issues. Exactly how that will play out, I can't really predict, but I do feel that that we're likely to get to a sensible outcome after this period of debate than we would have been otherwise. I think the key thing in terms of housing finance reform is that we need to make sure that we preserve what works and improve those things that need improving. There is no panacea, there's no magic outcome that allows you to keep all the best things of the system that we have and get rid of all the things that we don't like. There are trade-offs to be made, and the key will be what trade-offs do people want to make. But I feel good that we've been able to take a number of steps at Fannie Mae to help reform Fannie Mae and improve the housing finance system so that the amount of work that needs to be done to achieve ultimate reform is substantially less than where we were 8 years ago.